the end of another week on Soccer Down here. John, here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us here at the top of the hour. Yeah, I know we're like 4 or 5 minutes early. We got to be out at 11, so we couldn't do Turner time today. It is the sprint for Atlanta United 2, and we're going to be catching up with the folks with the twos off air and our conference call, getting ready for the matchup on Monday night from Montclair State. And it will be a 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock, a little after 7 o'clock first kick. I'll have the call for you with Atlanta United 2 and Red Bulls 2. So we're catching up with coaches and folks at 11 o'clock. So we're 9 to 11 today. And here's your traffic. We're going to do news of the morning, all that kind of stuff, kickoff, and we've got a kickoff for you. That's going to go till 9:30. Hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us. 10 o'clock, might have a special guest. Weekend Whiparound is an hour number 2 to get you ready for the weekend. It is Women's World Cup final. It is lower divisions. It is Major League Soccer. Don't know if you've heard of it. And Atlanta United and Seattle. Late Sunday night, 10:30. And so 10:39, if Apple is sticking to their 9 o'clock, their 9 minutesness. And so 10:39 is going to be the kick for Atlanta United and the Seattle Sounders. You got the Seattle side from it with Nico Moreno yesterday. You can catch that on the network across the board. And we will go through the league and all the matchups. Remember, there are a couple of matchups that have been pushed back because of Leagues Cup. You've got the Leagues Cup third place match, and you've got the Leagues Cup title game coming up this weekend as well at Geodis. You can go back into the network and listen to our conversation that we had with Lucas Panzica, the part of the play-by-play team for Nashville SC over at 104.5 The Zone. So it's been a really busy week, and it's been a fun week. And thanks to all of you guys that have been a part of it all week long. I know that things are a little rough right now in the Northeast. So, Shooter, just make sure that you're safe and everybody close to you is safe. Morning, Alex. And so we're off and running. All right, opening kickoff. No dilly, no dally zone here. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. Don't forget, there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Trying not to confuse it with the Lemonize QR code. Hopefully, if you can stick your phone up close enough, you just get this QR code and not get like dueling QR codes. Although dueling QR codes wouldn't be bad, because then you could figure out how to lemonize your kickoff coffee if you make a spillage. But right there, that's your Kickoff Coffee QR code. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest in youth initiatives. Great stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and KickoffCoffeeCO.com. Okay. I don't know if you've heard this, but there's a couple of matches this weekend in Australia and New Zealand to determine your top 4 teams in the Women's World Cup. And traditionally, with big-ticket items, you have the head of the organization that is representing that particular sport. At some point during the week, the head of the organization will have a conference. They'll have a press conference, and they will say incredible things about the sport that they're in. They will take a couple of questions, and they'll either answer them, or if it's a tough question, then they may just kind of sit there and come up with an answer that really is a good 40-second word salad soundbite. And then news organizations kind of sit there and go, do we really need to run this, what was just said? Johnny Infantino had his pre-Final Four third place match, championship match. He had his press conference. And in the past, Johnny Infantino has been known to not know the room. Going back to the "Today I Feel" speech, it's one that just sticks. Yes, and salutations. Yes, David, good morning. And he has been one in the past to kind of just not know the room that he's in. Wasn't the first time. And when this happens in subsequent big-ticket items attached to the world sport, it's not a surprise. But he had his Final Four weekend pre-matches press conference. So here's the greatest hits. Discussing what was going on. Once again, this is from Chloe Morgan at The Athletic, who was there. Infantino urged governments, federations, broadcasters, sponsors, and partners, journalists, to do more to support the development of women's soccer during the FIFA Women's Football Convention. Here's what he said. Highlights, bullet points. Infantino said FIFA's decision to expand the women's tournament from 24 to 32 is justified, citing that teams from all 6 confederations won at least one match at this World Cup for the first time. Well, greetings from the UK, Ellis. I know you've got a very, very busy weekend ahead of you. A bunch of different fronts. Infantino said the 2023 World Cup broke even by generating over 570 million US, 447 million pounds. Quote, we didn't lose any money, and we generated the second highest income of any sport besides, of course, the Men's World Cup at a global stage. When speaking about FIFA's biggest challenge, Infantino pointed to the need for more professional leagues around the world, concluded by saying, women, quote, have the power to change, pick the right battles, pick the right fights. You have the power to change. You have the power to convince us men what we have to do and what we don't have to do. You do it. Just do it. All right, on picking the right battles. The 400 morning, Tom, as you are driving from Augusta to Charleston. Hopefully you were doing safe driving, and maybe that was hopefully talk to Twitch pitch instead of talk to text. So Johnny Infantino, $440 million prize purse for the Men's World Cup. It's about 3 times the $152 million being shared by the women in Australia and New Zealand. Quote, Infantino speaking directly to women. With men, with FIFA, you will find open doors. Speaking directly to women, just push the doors. They're open. And do it also at a national level in every country, at continental level in every confederation. Just keep pushing. Keep the momentum. Keep dreaming. And let's really go for a full equality. Not just equal pay in the World Cup, which is a slogan that comes up every now and then. Equal pay in the World Cup. We're going in that direction already, but that would not solve anything. It might be a symbol, but it would not solve anything because it's 1 month every 4 years and it's a few players out of the thousands and thousands of players. We need to keep the momentum. We need to push it. We need to go for equality, but we have to do it for real. And you here in this room, all the women in this room, you have the power to do it, so believe in it. He rounded on critics of the choice of Australia and New Zealand as the host. Quote, I remember when we decided to do that, of course, the usual critics, which are less and less, were saying it's not going to work and the level's too different. There'd be 15-0 scores. It'd be bad for women's football and its image. I'm sorry, but FIFA was right. FIFA was right. As it happens quite often in the last years, FIFA was right once more about establishing more professional leagues. We need to have more local competitions, more continental competitions, more international competitions, because when you see some of the beautiful stories that were written at this World Cup, I could speak about Jamaica, I could speak about Nigeria, I could speak about Panama, Colombia, of course. Sidebar. You could speak about Jamaica. Unrelated, we do have a 1v1 with Soleil Washington, which will be on the network on Saturday. She gives us a look back at her time with the reggae girls in Australia, New Zealand, coming home, what the whole experience was like. Very, very cool 1v1 with Soleil Washington. Resuming sidebar. You could speak about Jamaica, sir, but you choose not to speak about the financial difficulties that the Federation had in, actually getting the team there. I could speak about Nigeria. You could, sidebar. But then you might have to talk about how Randy Waldrum was basically vilified by the press officer of Nigeria for standing up for his players. Don't mess with Texas, first and foremost. You could speak about Jamaica. You could speak about Nigeria, sir. But then you might have to actually discuss those issues as well. Resuming conversation. I could speak about Panama, Colombia, of course. They have, if at all, very small leagues at national level. Now we can say some of the big players will end up playing in Chelsea or Arsenal or Real Madrid or Barcelona or Wolfsburg, one of these teams in Europe. Fine. But what happens to all the others and what happens to the future? They cannot all go and play for a few clubs in Europe or the United States. We need to create the conditions in the next 4 years for them to be able to play at a professional level at home. This is the biggest challenge we have to take on board. For this, we need, of course, everyone. We need the UN agencies. So now he's invoking the United Nations, who've been very, very helpful to us in this World Cup participating with us. We need the governments, the institutions to create dedicated spaces for the women and for women's sport and women's football in particular. Of course, we need the partners and sponsors to pay a fair price. This coming from a gentleman who decided to take his own private jet and tour Oceania and visit all of those countries and do some island hopping and trying to sit there and wave on a tarmac and discuss those kinds of things. What about Oceania, sir? Other than just securing your votes. But apparently the words from Gianni Infantino, just push the doors. They're open. Keep pushing, keep dreaming. Yeah. So once again, the room and Gianni Infantino were not on the same page. You have the power to change. Sure. Convince us men what we have to do. Convince us men what we have to do. Other than, I don't know. I mean, the fight. Let me get. I want to get this quote once again. We need to go for equality, but we have to do it for real. And you here in this room, all the women in this room, you have the power to do it, so believe in it. Just push the doors, they're open. Equal pay in the World Cup, we're going in that direction, but that would not solve anything. It might be a symbol, but it would not solve anything because it's 1 month out of every 4 years, and it's a few players out of the thousands and thousands of players. We need to push it. We need to go for equality, but we have to do it for real. And you here in this room, you have the power to do it, so believe in it. Pick the right battles. You have the power to change. You have the power to convince us men what we have to do and what we don't have to do. Just do it. It's from Tom Gary. You have the power to convince us men what we have to do and what we don't have to do. It's not like they're doing it every damn day. But it takes this pre-Final Four women's conference for this bolt of wisdom from this guy. And it is a bolt of wisdom. Pick the right battles. The battles every damn day. You have the power to change. You have the power to convince us men what we have to do and what we don't have to do. You have the power to convince us men what we have to do and what we don't have to do. Just do it. It's a Nike ad now. With men with FIFA, you'll find open doors. Just push the doors. Attaboy. Way to go, Johnny. Johnny, whoops. Pick the right battles. You have the power to convince us men what we have to do and what we don't have to do. Sometimes it just makes my head hurt. It absolutely just makes my head hurt. Michael would love to hear nothing from Johnny. You're definitely in the majority, sorry. Ricky, good morning. Parzival, is he talking about the government and UN subsidizing sports? I think what he's looking at, Parzival, is if there's any way that the United Nations could give funds, I'm sure he'd be happy for it because it's less funds that FIFA would have to invest. Morning, Abby, on a 5-Stripe Friday. Ricky, even when he says something that's supposed to sound right, it feels like BS. Alex, I get how he's trying to frame it. FIFA's behind you, but it's the federations that need to be convinced. We really wish we could help more. Ricky, mansplain common decency to us. The acknowledgement of the patriarchy. Alex, they love to pretend that they're just a top level organizer, but the parasite sure has wriggled its way close to the source of the money. Parzival, is FIFA going to do what the U.S. has done and give up half the money to the Women's World Cup? My thinking is other countries may not have the resources or money like the U.S., therefore, if not built sustainably in other countries' programs, could go bankrupt. You also, Parzival, have the corrupt natures of the organizers in some of these organizations, too. They're looking out for themselves and lining their own pockets, as we've seen with other CONCACAF dudes in the past. Folks in this hemisphere line their own pockets as opposed to actually give the money that is doled out by FIFA to these individual organizations, the guys that are in charge. And I say guys because it is a patriarchy. The individuals that are in charge of these organizing committees and these national orgs, they look out for themselves first and foremost. Like I said, Howard Webb and Jack Warner. You look at those for me, and Jack Warner is the shining example of it. So, Jeffrey Webb. Jeffrey Webb from CONCACAF FIFA Vice President Jeffrey Webb back in 2023. Then Jack Warner. So, yeah, Jeffrey Webb and Jack Warner are the two that stick in my head, at least in this hemisphere. Abby with a public service, and thank you for steering us to this. Anyone have old children's cleats they want to donate? Working on a project needs children's cleats in different sizes. So if anybody has any children's cleats, please hand to Abby and have those conversations in the Twitch pitch. So, yes, that silliness from Johnny Infantino was your opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code that Abby wants to come over to Office HD and fix. That's your QR code for those of you watching on the social media channels, not just Twitch. We're now on Facebook, and we're now on Twitter. So Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. And you can use that QR code. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 at Kickoff Coffee. Kickoff Coffee then turns around and gives 10% into youth initiatives, youth games. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yeah, so it's one of those mornings where we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. And so here's your traffic. Hopefully we'll get joined by our friends at Beyond Goals at 9:30. 10 o'clock, we might have a special guest before we get into Weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Getting into all of the transfer news, right, and getting into what could be going on with Atlanta United. Looks like Saba Lobjanidze might be another couple of days before things are squared away. He may not be paperwork ready for the trip to Seattle. So we'll keep an eye on that. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. It is Newcastle considering making a bid for Mykhailo Mudryk. Oh, wait a second. That's like a year and a half old. Sorry. Wrong. I'm like, wait a minute. They're jumping on Mykhailo Mudryk. What? Now what? Chelsea have added Forest forward Brennan Johnson to their list of attacking targets. Held initial talks with the 22-year-old. I think the asking price for Nottingham Forest is around $50 million. $40 million. Okay. It was initially 50. Tottenham and Brentford also considering a move before the window closes. Chelsea have inquired about Rennes winger Jeremy Doku after their move for Michael Olise fell through. West Ham, Manchester City, and Tottenham are also keen on Doku. Chelsea backed out of the deal to sign France U21 winger Michael Olise, when Palace informed club lawyers they would consider taking a case to a tribunal. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea also looking at French winger Bradley Barcola, but faced some competition from PSG, who've had a bid of 35 million euro turned down by Lyon. Newcastle, Alex, have agreed on a 28 million pound fee for Chelsea defender Lewis Hall. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Forest have made a 35 million euro verbal offer for Monaco midfielder Youssouf Fofana. Mbappe has told his entourage he will stay at PSG this year, but in 2024 he only wants to play at Real Madrid. Davinson Sanchez, a target for Monaco after Spurs made the defender available for a move this summer. Manchester City trying to beat Brighton to the signing of 19-year-old Argentine left-back Valentin Barco from Boca Juniors. That's from the four-letter paper. But they're at $10 million is apparently the valuation right now of Valentin Barco. Jump on that one. Jesse Lingard has impressed West Ham during a stint in training. Could offer a short-term deal. Bayern Munich will not sign David De Gea, who's a free agent after leaving Manchester United, as manager Thomas Tuchel has vetoed the idea. Bayern's Benjamin Pavard set to choose between a move for Manchester United or Inter Milan before the end of the window. Liverpool set to complete the signing of Wataru Endo, Stuttgart having accepted the 16 million pound bid, while the 30-year-old Japanese midfielder has already agreed to personal terms. Liverpool also interested in signing Mario Lemina from Wolves. I'm sure that Lemina would sit there and say, get me the ish out of here. Aston Villa completing the final paperwork on a loan move for Galatasaray's forward Nicola Zaniolo, which will include a 22 million pound option to buy at the end of the year. Fulham considering a move for Valérien Balogun. Four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. West Ham close to agreeing to a deal with Stuttgart for defender Konstantinos Mavropanos. West Ham advancing in talks with Ajax over midfielder Mohamed Kudus, set to step up their interest in Montpellier striker Eli Wahi, also considering a short-term deal for Jesse Lingard. That's from The Guardian. Everton and West Ham interested in signing Porto winger Gonçalo Borges. Arsenal considering entering the transfer market for a new defender after Jurrien Timber ruled out for the season with a serious knee injury. Prem Proper will be up early this afternoon, and we will hear about West Ham and Chelsea and Timber, and there'll be an interview with Eric Ten Hag and some sound on Pep Guardiola discussing Cole Palmer. So set your notifications for Prem and Proper as we get you ready for the weekend. Manchester City's Joao Cancelo remains a target for Barca, now strong interest from clubs in Saudi Arabia. PSV Eindhoven keen on signing Serginho Dest on loan from Barca. Manchester City have paid £1 million to sign 14-year-old midfielder Tyrese Nubisi from Leicester. Sure. Why not? 14 years old. Looks like Bournemouth have also agreed on a deal for Tyler Adams. 23 million pound transfer plus add-ons. After protracted negotiations, looks like he's going to sign a 5-year deal. Potentially, yesterday the deal was complicated. Bournemouth believing they had met the time-limited relegation release clause of 20. Leeds maintained it expired. Talks continued despite the impasse. Adams had traveled last week to London to finalize a proposed deal to Chelsea. If that fell through, then Chelsea went on to sign Caicedo and Lavia. Adams has been recovering from a hamstring injury that saw him go what the club described as non-invasive surgery at the end of March. Stepped up his training program in recent weeks, scheduled to return after the international break. 36 caps for the MNT, captained them at the 2022 World Cup last time around. So it looks like Tyler Adams is heading to Bournemouth. We'll keep an eye on that. They need firepower. That they definitely need firepower. Theo Walcott is retired from football at the age of 34. All U.S. on-field officiating team has been confirmed for the World Cup final. Tori Penso, first American to take charge of a World Cup final, appointed for the ref for Sunday's fixture between Spain and England. Brooke Mayo, Catherine Nesbitt will be your ARs. Yoshimi Yamashita is your fourth. Tatiana Guzman will be on VAR duty. Penso, Mayo, and Nesbitt also officiated the semi between Australia and England. They made history in 2021 by being a part of the first group of women to referee men's World Cup qualifying matches. Penso left her job in advertising after the 2019 World Cup to pursue a full-time reffing career, became the first full-time female ref in MLS the following year. Earned her first FIFA badge in 21, lead ref for the She Believes Cup match with Canada and Argentina. World Cup final will be her 5th assignment of the summer's tournament. Nesbitt was the first female AR to officiate a men's CONCACAF World qualifying match, first woman to referee a championship match in professional men's sports in North America, first woman to officiate a CONCACAF League final. Spain and England, 5 o'clock in the morning, very, very early on Sunday. But very, very cool to see that. Let's see. Other things in the Premier League before we go. Let's see. Iwaniwi today, Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United is Friday Night Football. Taiwo Awoniyi and Musa Niakate edging closer to being fit enough to start after ankle and elbow injuries. Toffolo, Bianconi making progress, unlikely to be risked. Felipe and Omar Richards are not ready. Sheffield United, Paul Heckingbottom confirmed striker Ollie McBurney's back in contention after missing the opening loss to Crystal Palace through injury. Gustavo Hamer likely to be involved. Fellow new signing Tom Davies may be eased into action after not having a proper preseason. Max Lowe, George Baldock should be fit despite knocks last weekend. Peter Banks is the man in the middle. Only Burnley posted a lower XG total on Premier League match week 1 than Sheffield United. Nottingham Forest were one of 3 teams to post a higher XG than their opponent, but still lose the match, 1.2 to 0.08. So that's, like I said, we'll get into juice boxes and a bunch of other things there as well. When it comes to everything across the board, David, discussing Tori Penso, it became very clear last year she passed up her husband in referee ability last season in Major League Soccer. So, very, very cool that it's going to be a U.S. crew with your ref and your ARs, VAR from Japan, and very, very cool to see that piece of news drift across as well. Like I said, traffic is, what it is. We've got a lot of stuff on folks' minds. Whatever is on your mind, obviously we'll be attacking what is going on in Major League Soccer in hour number 2. Jurgen Klopp got to explain his genius when it came to his genius signing as they announced the Wataru Endo deal. 16 million pounds, as we mentioned. He's going to be wearing the number 3 shirt. Desperate to add another midfielder to the squad after missing out on Caicedo and Lavia. Confirmed the arrival on a 3-year deal. And Endo admits that it is a dream come true. Klopp gave a glowing review of his new signing. Really happy. He's a really good player. I know in this world of football how it goes and stuff like this, but have a look because he's a really good player. Experienced player, captain of Stuttgart, captain of Japan, speaks good English, nice fella, family man, machine on the pitch, good footballer on top of that, sensational attitude, so I'm really happy. Good footballer, experienced, loves to work extremely hard. Since there's a rumor out, or was a rumor out, I got plenty of messages from former players of mine and stuff like this. Everybody was like, if it's true, this is a genius strike. I asked to sign him for years and stuff like this. It was a very positive thing in Germany. He's super highly respected, capped 50 times for Japan's national team. So very, very happy. The gentleman who's in charge of Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp. And now Chelsea, by the way, closing in on $1 billion. $1 billion after getting Lavia from Liverpool. $1 billion. Close to $1 billion. Once again, this is, you signed Caicedo for $115, Enzo Fernandez, Raheem Sterling, Mykhailo Mudryk for $222 total. 19-year-old only signed for Southampton last summer from Manchester City for around $10 million. And so, of course, that means he's now worth $50. Aye. Nothing like everybody sitting there going, I think that the kid was worth 50 after being only worth 10. The values that we see in transfer fees the values that we see in transfer fees in European football, quite enamored with themselves. Maybe we all should try to aspire to be European footballers, where we could be sold for 1 year for 10 million, and then the next year we're sold for 50. Just how it works. It's 9:30 on a Friday, which means one thing. And, I've got to try and find the particular open because, special folks get special opens. That's just how this goes. I actually found the open, so here we go. Y'all squared away, Cap?
Morning, John. Hey, funny enough, I'm a European soccer player, and that never happened to me.
Well, this is the thing that gets me, especially in the current economy, is that it seems like the values of let's just say Premier League players, for lack of a better example, the self-inflated values are things that just it should surprise me, but it doesn't. It's like, okay, our team got relegated, and now this guy, he's worth 50, even though we got relegated. No, he's worth 40. This guy's worth 30. This one's worth 40. You got relegated, and you're still wanting to charge all of these fees. It's just the economics in European football these days. They're quite enamored with themselves, and people still pay the prices.
Yeah. English football is out of hand. It's unbelievable. They skew the market. I mean, English players in England, oh my God, that's even more ridiculous.
See, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, it is, you're, like I said, I would say that you should be shocked by these kinds of things, but yeah, skewing the marketplace and making it more expensive for the rest of us to function. It's like, yeah, I want to bring in this player from England over to Major League Soccer. $11 billion.
Saudi Arabia is doing it now. I mean,
yeah. I mean, what do you? All right. So since you've gone there, I'll open this door before we get into discussing about mentoring and things like that. Do you even care about the Saudi Pro League?
Nope.
Not going to watch it. Don't care. Overinflated dudes getting paid like 9-figure salaries. You don't care.
0%. Same as 5 years ago when they were all going to China. Nobody watched the Chinese league, did they?
No, I didn't. I had zero interest. And besides, we'd have to get up at like 2:00 in the morning to see something at 7:00 at night. I'm not going to do that. I'm not 20 something anymore. I'm not going to come home from, doing whatever it was on a Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday evening. Oh, let's watch the Chinese Super League. No. That's not going to happen. So
I'm very confident that I'll watch 0 minutes of the Saudi league.
How much of the Women's World Cup have you watched?
I watched the entirety of the Australia-England game the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. So yeah, a good amount, more of this World Cup than any other Women's World Cup that probably.
When you look at the game, the women's game and how it's advanced, even just over from World Cup cycle to World Cup cycle, what has it been like for you to see where the women's game is now internationally from where it's been in the past?
Yeah, it's incredible because, I'll be completely honest, going into the World Cup, my knowledge of the women's game was not very high, and I filled out a bracket and I found myself basically just picking the favorite, right? Because I think that's how women's soccer and even a lot of women's sports probably for a while have just been like, you can just pick the chalk, and usually, right, you get an upset every now and then. But I feel like this World Cup, it's been apparent how the game is growing worldwide, and a ton of countries that you never equated with women's soccer are now making a name for themselves and putting themselves on the map and having success. And it's fantastic. And I think the men's game has been more like that for a little bit now. And that's growing rapidly. And the women's game now is the same sphere. So that's fantastic. It really is. And that one thing about the women's game that I love and I respect the heck out of is how they get on with it. right? There is like very, very little like flailing around on the ground, time wasting. They have these hard challenges and go on the ground, and it's like they're up and on with it. And it's just that part of it is so refreshing to watch.
And I think that with the world ability, we always, because of what the United States has been able to accomplish in the Women's World Cup over the last several, really since the Women's World Cup began, 2 times in a row, chasing after a third coming into this tournament, and seeing the world, the margins are gone. I mean, it's like the U.S. used to be able to sit there and just out ability, out physical, whatever, and they could persevere and get a win. Those margins do not exist anymore. And yesterday, Vlatko ended up being Vlat gone because of what did not happen in this particular tournament with the world closing in on the U.S.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. I mean, the stakes are really high when you're back-to-back world champions. Right? There's a high bar there, and honestly, had he not got to the final, I mean, you'd expect that he'd probably be gone, and that's just the way it is. And as unfair as that might be, but that's where the women's game is right now. In women's game, I mean, U.S. soccer women's, and hopefully we can get back there and no longer. I mean, not that it's been easy, because that takes away from the talent and the determination and everything that the women here in the U.S. have put into the game, for a while now. But there are far more many countries out there that are have the ability now to advance far in a World Cup. And so the task is only going to get tougher.
When it comes to, mentoring, we've had the discussion in the past that there right now are more male athletes that you mentor than female athletes. But what has it been like to see these female athletes just sit there and want to be a part of this process and want to be mentored and see their games grow and evolve? What's it been like for you and Greg as mentors to have mentees not just be boys or young men, but girls and young women?
Yeah, it's awesome. And I will say that, like, even though it's been a smaller percentage, given those percentages, typically the girls are more resilient and not necessarily taking in the information better, but just a more outgoing, of asking questions, and resilient as far as like taking the criticism and learning from it, and going out there and going again and going again. That's what I've found through my own experience.
I mean, it sounds like that when it comes to the information, they absorb it. The way that you're presenting it, they absorb the information and want to continue to learn and learn and learn until they get it correct. Am I off there? That they seem to be absorbing the information and want to go after it until they get it right.
Correct. And then maybe it's because usually the women and girls that we work with are high level for their age, and some of the boys are high level, and some of them are trying to get to that higher level. So maybe that's a difference as well. But yeah, they've got a great mentality, and you can see that on the field when you watch the World Cup. Right, these women have a tremendous mentality of just persevering and keeping going, and their fitness level is incredible. The amount that they run and they just keep going, it's unbelievable. But then just the toughness, like I said, just the challenges and getting on with it, and like, oh, no one's going to feel bad for me. Like, just get up and keep going.
When it comes to you and Greg as mentors, how much do you learn from your mentees that you may not have necessarily known going into a mentoring situation? How much of this is that two-way street?
Yeah, we learn. I mean, you try not to have any bias, right, going into a conversation, but human nature, you always have a small amount of bias, and sometimes you're just not expecting either the child to be that outgoing, or that just aware of his or her surroundings, or the mental side of the game. or what they're going through. And so some of the players just are kind of like, you're just like, wow, like you're so mature for your age. And it's refreshing to see, because, just out in society, you see so much immaturity, not only from children, but from adults as well. So you get some of these opportunities with kids, and they just awe you sometimes, of like, gosh, they get it and they see it, and they understand it, and they're asking questions of how to deal with teammates that don't, and how do you get on with that, and how do you help them versus ignore them, and things like that. So it's always open to learning, for sure.
Do the younger athletes that you're dealing with today as mentees, do they compartmentalize better maybe than other generations, or is that just something that is a part of what you're experiencing currently, where the young athlete can kind of take all the noise from external factors, including their parents, put it to the side and want to lock in on what you and Greg and Beyond Goals are trying to teach? Do they compartmentalize better or well than other generations, maybe?
I don't know, honestly. I think that a lot of our athletes, and when you're younger, it's so much easier. There's less you have to compartmentalize, right? There's just less adulting type stuff that you have to deal with, right?
You just have to deal with the adults, yeah.
Which can be a lot. But yeah, there's just less responsibility outside of the field that, you have to put to the side and get on with later on. So, I'm not sure yet, because a lot of our mentees are, probably under the age of 16. And, when you hit high school, you've got more stuff going on off the field, with relationships and school and college decisions, and, more responsibilities. And with that comes the more necessary need to compartmentalize, so that you can focus on soccer when it's time to focus on soccer.
How much conversation do you have? I guess you can break this into percentages if you want, but how much of your mentoring is on the field mentoring about, how to perform on the field? And then how much of your mentoring is off the field mentoring about navigating, life's troubles as a teenager, navigating academics, trying to determine if you are an amazingly talented athlete, whether or not you're going to college versus going for pro? How much of your mentoring are conversations about what you're doing as an athlete, and then how much of it is off the field stuff?
That's a good question. It's close to 50-50. It might sway a little bit more off. I don't know. But it's tough, because there's a lot of things that we talk about off the field that help them on the field as well. And so there's a decent amount, right? Because you think that, performance on the field is just about, passing the ball, receiving the ball, running, scoring, all those things, right? But, we're trying to teach them, like, hey, yes, that stuff is important for sure, right? But all these things you do off the field in preparation and will help you on the field, right? And so having those conversations, connecting the dots, is a big thing that we focus on with our mentees.
When you were that age, when you were the age of your mentees, how much of your conversations were about on the field versus off the field with your mentors?
Very little. Very little. I think in high school, when I went down to IMG, was kind of the first time started talking about like nutrition, the mental side of the game, and kind of the holistic picture of things. Mm-hmm. But before that, very, very little.
So when you went down to IMG, and IMG is known as a factory. I mean, literally, it is the best of the best. It is all-star teams versus all-star teams, and you're either looking at it from a football perspective. You're at IMG A or IMG B. You're trying to find games. People don't want to play you. You end up playing yourselves. I mean, how much of a learning experience is that when you go to an IMG where it is the best of the best, and you get the additional holistic material and the off the field stuff where it's not just getting drilled and it's like, you've got to be the best, you've got to do this, you've got to score goals, or you've got to defend. What was that like to get that additional part where IMG is introducing you to this whole picture, but you're having to do it against others who are the best at what they did?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate that I was introduced to a lot of those things at that age, right? Where we're learning how to run properly and quickness and first step and doing things in the gym.
Run properly?
Well, just technique wise.
Yeah. I mean, it's like not like, so what, lurching forward and just, running there's actually a way to run.
There is a proper way to run. Now we all have our own way. And that's one of the, I don't want to say gimmicks, but you can't completely teach someone how to run, and you can't completely teach someone how to be faster, right? If you're fast, you're fast. If you're slow, you're slow. Can you get a little bit faster and a little bit quicker? Yes, absolutely. But you're not going to go from slow to I'm the fastest player on my team or in my school or whatever, right? There's minor things, right? And same thing with technique, right? You're not going to just overhaul your technique of running at the age of 16. It's just impossible, but you can incorporate little things that if you do it enough times, right, your brain understands it and starts to do it instantaneously.
I know that for somebody like me who doesn't really run for a living, it's kind of a new piece of news where there is actual technique where if your back is at an 85-degree angle, then as opposed to a 96-degree angle, then you're adding that much of wind resistance and can improve your times and those kinds of things. I mean, it seems like that kind of an experience and having that kind of information. At the time, it sounded like, man, this is like revelatory stuff. But now it seems like there's a lot of folks that can really analyze those kinds of things. What was it like when people are sitting there saying, no, you're running wrong. Do this, and do this. I mean, it's obviously, you mentioned conditioning for the brain, and it's like, okay, over time, I get it. But the first time that you get that piece of information, no, Michael, you're running wrong. And then they teach you something. What's it like to sit there and have somebody be that analytical about your approach?
Yeah, and it's not quite, that. It's more like working on the technique of getting your toes up and getting your knees higher, and what you said of a lean when you're, especially in the beginning of your run, getting this proper lean before you stand up too straight and things like that. It's not like they're analyzing everyone. It's more, hey, these are some things to work on that'll help your power, explosiveness. And like I said, you hope that if you repeat it, 1,000 times, you'll start to incorporate it. But it's not something that when I was out there on the soccer field, I was like, oh, remember to get your toe up and get your knee up higher, right? You don't have time to do that stuff. So, but the repetitiveness of 4 years of doing it, a few times a week, you hope that it helps.
Have you taken that information and applied that forward to your mentees? You sit there and it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Hey, do this, and do this. Has that information still stuck in your brain, and do you get to process it forward now?
I definitely don't tell any of my mentees how to run, for sure. That is 100% true, that I will not do that. But for sure, there's, things that I learned at that age of like, because a lot of kids don't have guidance in physical training, right? Of weight room, of core work, of stability, when to start those things, how to start those things. And that's really important when you hit the age of 14, 15 years old, when you start to introduce those things of, you have to start to get stronger and build the muscles. And how do you do that? And where do you start and how much and proper technique and that type of stuff. So we do try and help out a little bit with that, or I'll share videos on YouTube that I think are beneficial, just so that they're kind of in the right direction of starting off. But no, I know where my lane is and where my lane isn't, John. So try and stay in it.
So what YouTube videos do you give to your mentees as requested required viewing when it comes to trying to improve themselves? Or is it games? Is it individuals? Is it how-tos? Is it like the guy that would help Fred McGriff with baseball? Those kinds of things. I mean, what's the viewing habits here? What do you having them looking?
On YouTube, you mean?
Yeah, on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like, hey, if you want to start doing some core work, here's somebody that I like what they're doing. I like their exercises, how they explain it. Or, somebody's saying, I've got back pain, or, hey, I've had a lot of hamstring issues, right? What would you suggest? Anything? And, it's tough for me to explain the exercises virtually. So, I'll just look on YouTube for exercises that I like, that someone explains well in a video format, those types of things. Or, if somebody wants to work on fitness or shooting or something, I'll look on YouTube to find, because there's a billion videos about every topic, right? And I'm just trying to find ones that I think are like, hey, this is actually legit. Like I like what they're doing, and I like how they explain it, and just trying to share that type of stuff.
How much of an intensive search is that to try to sit there and sort out the wheat from the chaff, and sit there and it's like, okay, this is bogus, don't go here, and you've got to post that warning just as much as you sit there and you go, okay, no, really, go to this video and go to these kinds of folks, don't go over here. How much of a sorting job is that for you and Greg to sit there and make sure that folks have the right information?
Yeah, well, I never share like, hey, don't go to this. I just
don't go here.
That would waste too much of my time. So it's more, hey, I like this. And for us, I think you can tell pretty quickly in a YouTube video, right? Especially if you fast forward, every couple minutes, hey, does this guy or girl know what they're talking about, or how are they explaining it? Does it make sense? Is it simple enough? Is it slow enough? That type of thing. And some of it depends on what type of athlete you're working with. Is it a high level athlete who understands some of the wording, or is it a youth athlete that doesn't know, what a hamstring curl is yet, or things like that, where you have to find a video that is a slower pace and, starts from the beginning. So those types of little things.
What is a hamstring curl?
Well, you can do it a couple different ways, but the way I like to do it is on laying down on your back with a physio ball under your ankles, and you pop up your torso and then curl the ball towards you.
Okay, I'm trying to envision Michael Parkhurst with a physio ball trying to do these kinds of exercises.
That's my type of exercise, John. Wait.
Right there with you, brother. Usually for me, it's swinging a club or trying to do anything without any kind of weights. Legitimately, and this is probably too much information for everybody here on the show, I literally will stretch for 45 minutes every night before I go to bed.
Good for you.
It is slow, detailed stretches because I end up sleeping like a pretzel anyway, and I would wake up in the morning and it'd be like, hunched over, and it's like the line in Electric Horseman where Jane Fonda looks at Robert Redford first thing in the morning, and she goes, "You look broke," and he said, "Nope, just bent." And traditionally, that's how that's how things are. Abby says, "Remember, Parky has an advantage. His wife is a PT."
Yeah, it's an advantage and a disadvantage sometimes. The disadvantage when she's yelling at me that I'm not doing that or the other thing. Exactly, Abby. Exactly. More of an advantage than a disadvantage. But I will say, John, I played golf 2 days ago.
Yeah.
2 days ago, and we've had a decent amount of rain up here, so it's cart path only. And when it's cart path only, I walk.
Uh-huh.
And I got home, and it was more the next day. So yesterday, my hamstrings were so sore. And I thought, oh my God, this is embarrassing. But I'll share it anyways because I don't care.
More importantly, how did you shoot? Because off the tee, you're not getting a whole lot of carry because of all these kinds of things.
True. I hit the ball really well, actually. I shot 86. For me, it was really good, especially because I'm not a long hitter and I need the roll. So I was very happy with that.
Jordan wants to know, are you in Rhode Island or are you in Ohio? Where are you?
Ohio.
Okay.
So I get Rhode Island every now and then. But over here in Ohio. So we got the game this weekend, Cincy versus Columbus. So
hell is real and heck is plausible.
And actually, it might have a little. I'm actually. I need to find out. I don't know if Cincinnati comes here the day before, like normal, or just drive up the day of the game because it's a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they come the night before because I'm trying to see if I can have coffee with Alec and possibly Jeff Lorenowitz if he travels with the team. Maybe Brandon Vasquez. Little Atlanta reunion for coffee, maybe on game day.
There you go. This is officially the sprint, so I guess we'll go rapid fire here to wrap up. It's the sprint, 10 matches to go, and each one has its importance, especially if you're trying to chase after either A, a playoff spot, or B, a home playoff game. What is this kind of a sprint like, knowing that the number of matches is trimmed each and every time and its importance is amped up for players?
Yeah, I think that it's good. It's good that, hey, every game is super important. So of the utmost focus and intensity. And that's the way it needs to be. I mean, you've put yourself in this situation. So, it is what it is. That being said, I know that it's like 10 finals, but, if you don't get a win this weekend, right, it's away to Seattle this weekend.
Yeah, it's away at Seattle. It's a late game on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's a tough game, right? Seattle are very good. It's away, so that's a tough game, right? So if you don't win that game, I hate to say it's 10 finals because you're not going to win all 10 games,
right?
And, if you get 7 out of 10 wins or something like that, you're going to make the playoffs. But I think having that mentality is the right mentality, especially if you didn't have that mentality from the beginning.
And then what's the latest with RIFC? What's the latest there?
Latest with RIFC, not a whole lot. We are trying to put the roster together. Finalized preseason recently, so that's done. And just putting the roster together, figuring out who we can get, and who we can't, and we'll see if there's any MLS players or Atlanta 2 players or anything like that are available for us. Otherwise I'll just go scout Wake Forest and just bring as many Wake Forest guys over as possible.
I figured it'd be Wake North. We got to get Kano on that for a 1v1 as a matter.
Oh yeah, you're right. I do owe you that.
And then also, what's the latest with Beyond Goals before you go?
Beyond Goals. Greg and I were just talking this morning, putting together our presentation. We've got a new university up here in Ohio that we're working with. So Denison University is a D3 school. And so we're working with them throughout the fall. So we're going to have a few in-person meetings with them. They play in the same conference as Otterbein, which is in my back door here. So we're excited about that partnership and see how that goes and see how it is to work with a college team over the course of a season, and then hopefully implement that elsewhere as well.
All right, and Abby, before you go, how do you prepare for the late game on the West Coast, being the game doesn't start till 10:30 East?
Yeah, it's tough. I would always wake up super early in the morning. I just couldn't sleep late no matter what, so that was fine. I would just take like a 2-hour nap in the afternoon, or even if it was 2.5 hours or whatever. I wouldn't, when it was an East Coast game, I would also try and take a nap, but I'd try and limit it to an hour and a half. But a West Coast game, nope. As long a nap as I need, because that's tough. Yeah, I would struggle some East Coast games to stay up for a 7:30 game. I literally remember there was a time where I was like talking to my wife. I was like, we need to stay up later because I am tired for these games, because we were like going to bed at like 9 o'clock. And I was like, we need to stay up later so that I'm a little bit more awake for these games. So the West Coast games is stuff like that.
No doubt. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Go play golf. May the roll be with you, and we will catch up with you soon, my friend.
Sounds good, John. Have a great weekend.
All right, Michael Parkhurst. So he is out. And so since it is now officially 10 o'clock, it is time for the hot tag. And that means one thing. We mentioned special guests, so I guess I probably need to do something like this. We'll do like a musical interlude here, and for the proper introductions, let's do something like this. Why not?
Wow.
It's breaking news. Jessica Charman's crashing. So, all right. So my first question, Jess, how long do we have you?
We'll go with 15 and see how that goes to begin with.
All right. Yeah. So yell at me when we get to the 15-minute mark. Let's see. You're going to be talking about the World Cup. You're going to be talking about Major League Soccer. We're going to be talking about sell before we die.
We have to. Yeah, we have to.
On her mind in the world of anything else on her mind. This is where I'm trying to promote on the be a part, spacing John of the conversation at twitch.tv/soccer down here. You got, we'll start with, you want to start with sell before we die and really get you in a good mood?
Oh, yeah, let's get the bad out of the way before we get to the nice, right?
Right.
It's so annoying, John. Like, we had this conversation, everything seemed rosy. We got a new manager in Ruben Sales, and then S hits the fan and things keep happening and we're making signings. And then all of a sudden, hey, let's just deduct another point from you for failing to have the right amount of money in your bank account. Let's just become the first team in history to have point deductions in 3 consecutive seasons. I don't know how it only ended up being 1 point. I'll tell you that. I feel kind of grateful that it's only 1 point, but still, what a load of rubbish. And we need to find someone that's going to take over this club and take over it the right way, because the on the field stuff feels good. The manager feels good. And, the players, we're going with young players. You may have seen the news that Andy Carroll looks like he's going to be on the way out, and some of the older generation of players, because we want to build for the future. But you can't build for the future when you've got a guy that is toxic for your team and is spreading terrible, terrible ways of ownership on your club.
And I think it's another 3 points that have been suspended pending actually paying your bills. And, last time I checked, actually paying your players and paying your bills and making sure that your employees are taken care of is kind of key to the success of the overall operation of a franchise. That's just me. Legitimately, how much would it cost? Yes, it is, Jordan. It is regarding Reading. Yes, we're getting the Reading conversation out of the way before we talk Major League Soccer and World Cup and all these other things. How much realistically would it take to get the franchise out of his hands? How much of a price tag are we talking here to include the debt that's currently on the
I honestly couldn't tell you, John, because he feels like this is his project and so many other things are being taken away from him that he's clinging on to this with the skin of his teeth, quite frankly. And I don't think he realizes yet how every single Reading fan is buying into this sell before we die, that every single Reading fan is ready to get rid of this ownership because it is toxic. Like we say, he still shows up to the games, and it's so wild to me that he's not noticing everybody, booing when he enters, and they're coming up with different ideas of ways to show the protest, because players have been quite clear, hey, look, we get why you're protesting, but let's not let it impact the supporters. And that's why we keep saying support the team and not the regime, because it is important that the on the field players can still focus on doing their job. It's not their fault that above them is an absolute S-storm.
It is an ish storm. That is absolutely true. And we are not above having the explicit rating. So if you feel like you need to actually
okay, I can't swear though, because I'll get into bad habits and then I'll be on the radio and I'll get in trouble or dumped. So I am trying to do my best not to curse.
Yeah, I know, especially with T-Mac and Bones. You want to try and be the better individual.
Yes, I'm trying to be the role model of all radio, because it would be very easy to drop a couple of F-bombs on this topic. But I'm not going to do it, John.
Jess, role model of all radio. I think that's your new title, role model of all radio. One of the other things I noticed on social media with you is something very, very cool involving the Women's World Cup final. What's that, for those who didn't see it?
Yes, I've been doing some remote work with Live Score, which is an app in a Juicebox app in England, if I'm completely honest with you. But they also do live commentary of games. And they reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do the live commentary remotely from my basement for the Women's World Cup. And of course, I said, absolutely yes. And that's something that kind of happened with COVID, right? With COVID, it forced us to learn how to do things remotely, and it became the norm. And we get our setup, and I've got an amazing broadcasting setup down in my basement with the big screen TV, with the broadcast, the microphone, and it's cool. Is it calling it from Australia? No. Is that the goal one day? Yes. But is this an incredible opportunity and a way to prepare me for a big moment? Absolutely. It's going to be an honor. Super excited that my friends back home are going to be able to download the app and listen, that it's going to be easy for my dad and all of that jazz. And honestly, John, I think it's going to help the viewership experience, because it's going to be a lot easier to watch the game as someone that's commentating versus as a fan, because anybody that knows me knows that I'm on the edge of my seat constantly, and I had to get my nails done to make sure I wasn't chewing them.
And Abby wants to know what's your score prediction for the final.
2-1. I think it's going to be exactly like the Euros. I actually think Spain's going to get a go-ahead goal, and then England's going to have the comeback and the fight back. I hope we do it in regulation and it doesn't go to extra time, because the closer it gets to penalties, the more nervous I get. But I will say that England, the women, seem to be bloody good at penalties, much better than the men. So let's go with England winning it. I think I have to back my ladies. Do I think Spain is an incredible team? Yes. But I think that the harmony in the dressing room and the mutual respect between the players and the coach is something that separates England from Spain. I think that the players all feel their purpose and value in the Lionesses locker room. And as we know, there's been some off the field antics with Spain that means that some of their best players are missing.
And I know that I have put out the bat signal for you possibly to return on Monday after the tournament is over, to come in with your World Cup yearbook, and we can do senior superlatives and most valuable players and things like that. But leading into this final, what have been some of the really cool storylines and stories that you've been able to glean from the tournament to this point?
Just that narrative of the world is catching up being truly accurate. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I spoke with Jason before the tournament, I was a little bit anxious about expanding to 32 teams. I was a little bit nervous about the fact that maybe we'd see some blowout results. I always think back to the 13-0 US Thailand game of the last World Cup, and I was worried we were going to see more games like that, and we absolutely didn't. Small nations competing, teams without federation backing, showing that F the federation, we're still going to be badass players no matter what, and you need to back us. That's been amazing. Seeing that 3 top 10 teams didn't make it out of the group stages in Canada, Germany, and Brazil was eye-opening, and I think it was a wake-up call to all those big nations that maybe sit back and get a little bit complacent in the group stages. Sad about Marta, sad about Sinclair, the end of that golden generation of players that was someone that I looked up to. But now we're seeing the difference between sides that are cultivating young pros versus the US, which is so reliant on the college system, on the women's game. And anyone that knows me, please know that I'm not criticizing the collegiate game. I think it's an incredible thing. I have benefited so much from my college soccer experience, but there is a gap now. And I think that college needs to be on the women's side more like it is on the men's side now, with the growth of academies, where the college side is where players that aren't quite ready to go pro maybe play to get a second bite at the apple. But we need to find a way of cultivating young players in the US, because the gap is closing. Just look at the Youth World Cups. Spain has won 2 Youth World Cups leading to this World Cup. It's no shock that they have young players coming up and performing. Colombia made it through to a U17 World Cup final. They're being successful. You saw 2 of their big players have a huge match against England in Caicedo and Guzman, 2 players that were just in the U17 World Cup. Where's the US in the U17, U20 World Cups? Not getting out the group stages, not qualifying. I think as someone that loves this country, because I am very loyal towards America as well, I'm concerned about where the female game is going now in the US. Who's going to want to touch that manager position? I know there's people saying, oh, we're going to get Serena. She's not coming to the US. She'd be mad to. Let's be honest. I think she has a better chance of taking over the men's English team, quite frankly, with how smart she is in this game. So we'll see. But I think my biggest takeaways is the world that's catching up. And in 4 years' time, I have some fears for the US, honestly. I don't think you can rely on the physicality, on the speed of, the one-dimensional tactics anymore of just being better and bigger and stronger than your opposition, because this final is going to display the tactical genius of England and Spain. It's going to display the technical genius of particularly the Spaniards. Let's be honest, how amazing they are technically on the ball. What did the US show this tournament? That they just weren't good enough tactically or technically in those games.
You mentioned Vlatko, who's turned into Vlatgo, and we got into that a little bit yesterday. You mentioned it briefly, We also, two other points when it comes to Women's World Cup I wanted to get into. All U.S. officiating with center rep.
Tori.
Yeah, you've got Tori, and Tori's going to be in the middle, and you have a Japanese fourth, and VAR from South America. Very, very cool. Jared has hopped in, and as Jared is wont to do, just parachuting in when the real world can be put to the side. We started off this morning, Jess, in opening kickoff, and a lot of folks' favorite individual, Gianni Infantino, had his pre-Final Four at the Women's Convention speech. And the key quote that stuck with me that took pretty much 20 minutes of my brain power to try to keep from not saying things. Here's the quote from Gianni Infantino. With men with FIFA, you will find open doors. Just push the doors. He's speaking directly to women. Just push the doors. They're open, and do it also at the national level, in every country, at continental level, in every confederation. Just keep pushing. Keep the momentum. Keep dreaming. And let's really go for a full equality. Not just equal pay in the World Cup, which is a slogan that comes up every now and then. Equal pay in the World Cup, we're going in that direction already. But that would not solve anything. It might be a symbol, but it would not solve anything because it's 1 month every 4 years, and it's a few players out of the thousands and thousands of players. We need to keep the momentum. We need to push it. We need to go for equality, but we have to do it for real. And you here in this room, all the women in this room, you have the power to do it. So believe in it.
What a twat.
Give me
a twat.
Give me a blank and break.
Why is it women's, like, what? Like, this is such a nothing quote that throws all the responsibility on women. But let's be honest, the men have the influence in a lot of ways, and they should be rooting. They should be supporting. And look at all the federations. Let's be honest here. How many of the teams, the nations that have shitty ass federations behind them have men at the helm? Let's be honest here. Like, it's the women are doing their bit, but sometimes you need the people in power, whether it's a man or woman, to step up and push. But to come out and actually think that that's an acceptable statement shows you the state of FIFA, and it just shows you the state of why we're having to break down all these obstacles. And it's frustrating because I do think there's been so many positives from this World Cup, and this is just a way to tarnish those positives, because you're seeing that when the biggest leader, one of the most influential people in world soccer, has that to say, what does that feed down to all the people that worship his words when he's a misogynist just as much as anybody else?
Yep. Jarrett, we're going to get into Weekend Whiparound here coming up in just a little bit, but we've got Jess. What's on your mind with Jess?
Oh God. Well, she said all the things about the Infantino thing, because I had to kind of laugh at it. But you know for a fact that Infantino, after he said that, he walked off the stage thinking, "I crushed it."
Yeah, mic drop. I love the women's game. I support it. Sickening.
I do have news for Jessica. She'll find it. The two of us will find fun. In the last preseason game at Georgia State, I can tell you that our Lord and Savior Gio Rios scored.
So. Yes, I know. Clayton State drew Georgia State. The men, I don't know. They've done some Inter Miami-esque roster manipulation. I will say that. It's amazing. They're not doing anything untoward.
No.
They've definitely utilized the COVID year. All these players that got an extra COVID year coming back for their 5th season, 6th season. It's amazing. Red shirt year, COVID year. You know, we're going to have freaking 30-year-olds playing at this point in center back for Clayton State, but I'm not complaining.
No, so the background here being that when we were covering Apotheos this year, Jess told me to watch out for Giovanni Rios, who had signed for Apotheos for MPSL season. Yeah. He went on to assist some of the biggest goals in the year, including the MPSL national final. He put them ahead with 20 minutes left and damn near assisted what would have been the game-winning goal. But he is back at Clayton State, and one we will definitely be watching. And yeah, you should be watching too if you're not us, because then when he lands and makes the next step, you hipster to your friends and say, "Oh, I knew him win. Mm-hmm. I remember him win." Just be the obnoxious person.
A Karim Tamimi moment is so special. Yes. And that's one of the biggest things with the college game that, you know, I get it. There's so much soccer going on. But once MLS stops, guess what? The big time college games are happening in November. They're happening late October. And the level is exciting. It's a great way if you've got young kids to bring them to a accessible level to get role models. And I think, like we say, there are so many hidden gems in the college game that are getting that second bite of the apple. And it's really, we've got some amazing teams in and around Georgia to be a part of.
Yep, and we get to hang out with them here on SDH. It is 15:15. What is your clock, Jess? Do you turn into a pumpkin?
We got 2 minutes. Let's do this. Quick fire, 2 minutes.
All right. The weekend coming up in Major League Soccer, what do you see?
That Charlotte's not playing, so I am not too focused on Major League Soccer this weekend. I'm enjoying a rest break. I do know Atlanta United's got a late.
I can't imagine there's another game that would have your attention this weekend.
Late night soccer, right? Atlanta United versus Seattle. So that should be a fun one. I will say that I'm not sure I'm going to be staying up for it, considering I'm going to be up at the crack of dawn to watch England play. So maybe right now, Jarrett, I'm not focused on MLS because all of my focus is completely on England and their potential to potentially make me very happy or break my heart.
Which once again gives us a chance to promote what you're doing from your studio.
Oh yeah, live score. So if anyone wants to use a VPN, I think it might work. Don't tell them I sent you via a VPN, but live score app will have my commentary of the Women's World Cup finals. So it will definitely not be biased in any capacity.
No. Looking forward
Honestly,
to it.
that's the fun of it in this situation when it's your nation that you have watched go through all of these chaotic moments. And we talked about it the other day that England playing the U.S. 4 years ago, England was a better team and could not get it across the line.
Hampton and Hudson, and doing a post-game show with Jason after that one.
That was the chance for
respect. That
was the chance for glory.
Yeah. At Jess Talks Footy, she's got a life. She's got other things to do. She's got a very busy weekend, and she is saving her energy for a very, very early wake-up call. Very, very cool stuff. Follow her on the Twitters if you already do not, or on the X or the 280-character app or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. Jess, as always, as a golden ticket status member, you know you can crash at any time. If you can squeeze it back in for a postmortem to bring in your World Cup yearbook on Monday, obviously the door's open.
I think it will happen. I think it'll be able to happen. Take care, boys. Have a good rest of your show.
There we go. There's Jess. And it's always fun to have Jess. And so now that it is 10:18 and we are off and running here, we have the patent pending, trademark coming, hopefully sooner rather than later, possibly, probably, maybe, Weekend Whiparound, where we go over everything going on in Major League Soccer before the end of the show. And that includes Atlanta and Seattle, since it is one of the late games on Sunday. Then we will cover it last because we can do that. We can cover things chronologically and still have Atlanta be the last one to cover. Doug Robertson of the AJC said that Saba Lobjanidze is not at practice this morning. Still chasing after the paperwork and making sure that everything is the way that it should be so he can be a part to participate when it comes to everything involving Atlanta United. But so we will see what it looks like. We'll get the availability report. Jordan is making the trip to Seattle. And Jarrett, I have encouraged Nico to meet up with Mike and Jason in the press box at Lumen Field so we can finally have that collision of SDH-ness in a press box in Seattle.
Yeah, we need to get it done. It should be a fun game. It's going to be. I don't know if you've seen. Sounders at Heart, the Seattle-based as of now SB Nation podcast, but they're taking it independent.
Right.
They did an interview with Garth Lagerwey as well, and Garth is still very well thought of for the work he did there. But this weekend, they're also going to be doing a bit of honor for Garth and for Gonzalo Pineda, because both of them are, again, very well regarded in Seattle for their contributions to that club. It'll be a really interesting little homecoming for them. It'll be an interesting game because Atlanta has to hit the ground running. Seattle is a team that has scuffled this year.
Yeah.
We'll get to it at the end of the whip around, but yeah, hopefully we get all that done.
Yeah.
Also, as far as Saba, a lot of times in this instance, go yell at the State Department.
Yes,
because you're trying to get visas done, and clubs can only move so fast as the bureaucracy lets them move.
Correct. And so we'll keep an eye on Saba Lobjanidze, and it will be interesting to see. Apparently, this was a Johannes stat. First match since June 10th that Miles Robinson would start, if he is in fact part of the back line for Atlanta United. So we'll keep an eye on that. 7:30 on Sunday. Now, these are Sundays. Traditionally, Sunday is the MLS Next Pro Day, but they've shifted from Saturday to Sunday for the first time back because of Leagues Cup and all that kind of stuff. So here's the deal. 7:30 Sunday, we start with Hell is Real. Heck is Plausible, I think, was last week. Hell is Real is this week. 7:30. Crew in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, are an even money plus 100. Cincinnati is a plus 258, and the draw is pretty much the same thing. And that is on the free side of Apple TV, and it is your FS1 game from lower.com field at a 7:39 kick as 10-7-6 welcomes 15-2-6. Fun facts. Cincinnati defeated Crew 3-2 at home May 20. Second MLS victory over their in-state rival. They've drawn 4 and lost 5. Columbus has never lost at home against Cincinnati, winning the last 3 meetings at home by a combined score of 8-2. Crew are unbeaten in their last 10 home matches in all comps, winning 7, including a penalty shootout loss to Minnesota dating back to early August of 22. Columbus has lost only 1 of their last 22 matches at lower.com in all competitions, winning 14 of them. Do we need to go any further?
No, you didn't know you need to go that far. Cincinnati in this. Still always funny to me that Cincinnati and Columbus decided to make a rivalry based off of the kind of billboard you see every 2 miles south of the Nat line in Georgia.
Correct.
It's kind of like us making a rivalry that like 1 inch of accumulation snowfall is real. Yeah, y'all get that too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more than we do. Y'all made a rivalry off of a giant billboard.
Yes.
Buddy, we got those that are like shockingly more graphic too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That is true.
I don't recommend it.
Yes. Miami and Charlotte got PPD'd because Miami's kind of busy. And that is on Saturday night at 9 o'clock at Geodis, by the way. So the Monday show could be stacked, could be a Lucas Panzica visit, could be a Jessica Charman visit. I think Bart, is going to visit with senior superlatives from the Women's World Cup. So Monday could be very interesting. Philadelphia playing Monterrey at 6 o'clock on Apple TV and Season Pass. Then at 9 o'clock, it's Nashville and Miami from Geodis. That's your Saturday.
Nashville will have Nashville. I wonder if Philadelphia will have the cojones to actually play their game for 90 minutes.
The one that they played in the first 3 and went down 1-0 to Inter Miami, or their actual normal one that we're used to seeing?
No, play their actual game that they played, and Game State took advantage of that in the second half. But still, They were more aggressive, and they were actually pressing Miami and trying to make them uncomfortable, doing what Philadelphia does well instead of, I don't know, being afraid of Messi.
Yeah, exactly. Who by the way, has no problem.
It's okay to be afraid.
Yeah,
look at what he's doing.
Yeah, and by the way, he has no fear of playing on turf. Finally said it in his press opportunity yesterday.
The fact that we had to have this conversation just gives me a migraine.
We've been talking about it the entire time.
He had not given anyone a solid quote about this to say that yes or no. Mm-hmm. And people running out here like he had said this verbatim that he wasn't going to play on turf. And then you can't reference like the tabloid rags in England. Like no. You can. Well, I mean, rephrase that. You can.
Yeah.
Just not going to take you seriously when you do.
That's why we always sit there and say, when it's the 3 and the 4 letter paper, take the information at your own peril.
Yeah. But it was very annoying that like you had all this discussion and now Messi's like, no, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm good.
Like, yeah, I mean, until he didn't like we said, like we talked about before, like, and I tweeted out yesterday that if there's anything I'm concerned about with him and Almada, it's the fact that you're playing in La Paz 4 days before the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and La Paz is not sea level.
No, La Paz is not sea level, but you're going to be playing a really exhausting, an exhausting World Cup qualifier. Also, he hasn't given you any like indication that he's not going to continue with the national team. Yeah. He said he might not make it to 26.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't really given you any indication that he won't, that that he won't be part of this national team. Because if you think for a minute, if they get into a weird spot, he's not going to drag them to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 7:30 also Red Bulls in DC in the Atlantic Cup, and that is on the free side of Apple TV. Side note involving DC United, Memphis 901 waived Bill Hamid. So
yeah, he hadn't played in a while anyway. It's fine. Memphis is kind of chugging along. Let's check the USL standings.
Yeah, I think they're in that gaggle.
They're in fourth.
Yeah, 3-4 in the East.
Yeah, they're right there with Lou City.
Yeah.
Lou City caught a shot across the chin from Charleston yesterday because Ben Pierman saying, now we have to go play in Detroit, which is a tougher environment than you just played, which was Lou City. So, catch the strays from Lou City. Pittsburgh Riverhounds are first in the East still too,
and Bob Lilly's still yelling. Yeah, Red Bulls are a minus 1.25. DC's a plus 340. Your draw's a plus 265. I'm going Red Bulls in that one. That's fairly simple. Also on the board on season pass at 7:30 from Citi Field, it is NYC and Loons. And your juice boxes in this one, NYC's a minus 106. Minnesota United is a plus 280, and your draw is a plus 259. Remember, this is a composite of anywhere from 16 to 17, 15 to 20 different juice box purveyors in and around the world. So your composite has NYC at a minus 106 at home at Citi Field. Draws a plus 259. Minnesota United's a plus 280. Welcome back, Maxi Morales. I don't know where he is when it comes to his own getting back into playing shape, but I'm looking at NYC. I really am.
NYC just because it's at home.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick against them at home.
Yes. Also on the board, it is at 7:30, the Canadian Classique at BMO on the free side of Apple TV, Toronto and Montreal. And Toronto is a plus 131 favorite, draws a plus 252. CF Montreal is a plus 194 in this one.
Montreal is so hard to predict this year. I'm going to go with them just because they're hard to pin down.
3-11-10 hosting 9-12-2. CF Montreal hasn't lost any of its last 6 MLS meetings with Toronto, winning 5, including winning each of the last 3. Both the 6-match unbeaten run and the 3-match win streak are CF Montreal's longest such runs against Toronto FC in the MLS history of the rivalry. Toronto FC has lost 8 straight in all comps, following a pair of defeats in Leagues Cup, longest losing streak in all comps in club history. 4 of the 8 losses have come by 1-0 scorelines, including 3 of the last 4. CF Montreal has collected just 5 points, scored 5 goals through their first 12 road matches this season, only winning 1. Montreal's failed to score in 9 of those 12, as only the Red Bulls, with 10 in 2009, have been shut out more often than the first 12 road games of their season. Sean Johnson apparently is out for a month with a bone broken in his hand. Apparently sustained it at practice. The team released that information yesterday. Ricky says Toronto is a dumpster fire still, and they are a dumpster fire even with the exchange rate. I'm going Montreal in this one. And you got folks that won out. John, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. John Herdman in discussion with Toronto about being their new head coach.
I want to laugh, but at the same time, what if John Herdman is okay as a club coach, but not as a national team coach?
Oh, God.
We'll see. I think Canada might benefit from it. I think Canada might benefit from just
from not having John Herdman as their national team coach.
Canada's got a lot to work on right now. They got a lot to deal with.
They do. Absolutely, they do.
But I think if they kind of took a deep breath, step outside, go touch some grass, get a new manager, or maybe get some new ideas in there, maybe they can build on what they got. I just think Herdman's ceiling is kind of limited.
Yes, that is true. 8:30 kicks. Fire hosting Orlando City. Fire's a plus 124. Your draw's a plus 248. Orlando is a plus 211. That one is on season pass, and that one is at Soldier Field. Chicago and Orlando, this is the time of year where Oscar Pareja decides, I'm just going to try to get us into the playoffs. This is where he kind of eases in and just kind of settles, and it's like, we're good. He becomes more pragmatic, and I mean that in the negative term, not in the sense of just trying to be realistic about things. He plays far safer than he has traditionally in the first 2/3 of the season. With this 10-ish match sprint, does Oscar Pareja, try to be normal? Or does he do what he has done and revert to type? That is the big question I've got for Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like watching somebody. If you ever watch like Olympic, like Roman Greco wrestling, someone just settling into ground game. Like everyone's tired by the third round, third minute, the third set of 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like settle into a hold. It's like, I'm just gonna hold you here for a minute while we go both catch our breath. All right. And we'll move again, or just kind of like boxers leaning on each other at times.
Yes.
I think Orlando will be fine because I think they can just talent their way through to get to the playoffs. They'll be fine. The Tom Bogert's piece this week, though, about potential transfers down the line. Orlando might have a couple guys on the way out in the winter. Not necessarily guys they're looking to get rid of, but bigger fish might come calling, or bigger oceans might come calling for the fish.
Yes.
We'll see. But give me Orlando in this game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Orlando gets this one done, if not a draw. Also at Shell Energy at 8:39, Houston hosting Portland. This one is on season pass. Glenn Davis on the mic on the radio side. Dynamo are a minus 110. Portland is a plus 282. And your draw is a plus 270. I've got to go with Houston at home until further notice.
Yeah, because Ben Olsen just kind of doing Ben Olsen things, man.
In year one, yeah. This is the thing. How long does Ben Olsen do Ben Olsen things in Houston with Dynamo, and then goes and frustrates people? How many years is the Houston Dynamo under Ben Olsen the new coach smell, the new car smell, and then when does it start to fade and turn into normal, what we see with Ben Olsen just kind of being okay? So we'll see. But I've got to go with Houston in this one. And 8, 10, and 5 hosting 6, 9, and 8. Kickoff at 8:39. That one is on season pass. Also on the board for these matchups, 9:30 kick at City Park. All caps SC on the free side, and is the second match in the FS1 doubleheader. All caps is hosting Austin FC. And in this one,
all caps,
minus 115. Your draw is a plus 294. Austin is a plus 273. I've got to go all caps as well. They need a win in the worst way, and I think that Austin being on the road will give it to them. Nico mentioned yesterday not having Diego Fagundes as a part of their offense. I want to know what their offense is going to look like going forward. And in this stretch run, I want to see. And so when the Missouri-based turn of phrase is applied to your visitors coming from Texas and not the all caps franchise, I'm going with all caps at 9:30.
Yeah.
4 matches at 10:30. LAFC hosting Colorado Rapids. LAFC is a minus 217. Your draw is a plus 372. And the Rapids are a plus 530 in the composite. I don't think we need to go any further in this.
Don't overthink it.
Nope, don't overthink it. It's on season pass at BMO as LAFC is 10, 6, and 7 hosting 3, 10, and 10. Don't overthink it, and don't waste any juice boxes on it. Also on the board in your 10:30 kicks, and we got 4 of them, LA and RSL. This one's at Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. 10:30, 10:39 kick, and it's on season pass. All these other matchups.
Which LA?
LAG.
Oh, RSL then.
Yeah, RSL at 10-7-7, visiting 5-10-7. Your juice box is in this one. LAG is a plus 116. This one might be your line mistake of the weekend. LAG is a plus 116. RSL to draw is a plus 282, and RSL is a plus 200 on the road at LAG. Who thought that signing 37-year-old Billy Sharp on a free from Sheffield United was going to help them with their bench woes? So,
yeah.
RSL at a plus 200 on the road at LAG.
Take it, run.
Vancouver and San Jose, as we are going to do Atlanta United and Seattle last, and Abby has posted supporters group notes. BC Place, 10:30, 10:39 kick as Vancouver is hosting San Jose as 8-7-7 hosts 8-7-8. Juice boxes in this one. Vancouver's a minus 125. Draws a plus 288. San Jose is a plus 313. Traditionally, traveling to BC Place is tough. Two teams about the same in the Western Conference. I've got to go with Vancouver because of home field advantage.
Yeah, give me them.
Then the last one, Seattle and Atlanta. It is going to be a 10:39 kick, and it is, once again, it's on season pass. You can catch up with Mike and Jason. 10 o'clock, if my math is correct, 10 o'clock pregame, 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. And it will be a post-game show after. But, yeah, 10 o'clock Eastern pregame, 10:39 kick with Seattle and Atlanta from Lumen Field. Seattle's had a lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistency. They're 10-8-6 in the West. Atlanta's 9-7-8 in a very, very crazy Eastern Conference. Fun facts. 3 of the 5 all-time meetings between Seattle and Atlanta have ended in draws, each team recording a 2-1 home win. Seattle's victory came in July 2019. Atlanta's win came in the last meeting in August of 22. Seattle's won 2 of their last 8 regular season home matches, drawing 3 and losing 3. Though it's avoided defeat in their last 4 at Lumen Field, winning 1 and drawing 3. Sounders have allowed only 1 goal over the last 4 home league games, but have scored only twice themselves in 4 matches. Atlanta United's won 3 of their last 29 road games in all comps dating back to early April last year, losing 16, drawing 10. Atlanta's only victory in their last 12 away from home was a 1-0 victory at Montreal in early July, where they've drawn 5 and lost 6. Only Nashville, with 22, has conceded fewer goals than the Sounders, 23 this season. Stephen Fry leads all goalkeepers with 11 clean sheets. And remember, Steph Fry's been out with injuries too. Steph Cleveland has been in. So Stephen Fry has 11 clean sheets and hasn't played a full season. 2 more than anybody else. 2 away from equaling his own single-season club record of 13 set in 2017. 6 of Thiago Almada's 8 goals this season have been scored on set pieces, 3 direct free, 1 corner, 1 penalty, 1 indirect free. His 5 non-penalty set piece goals are 2 more than any other player in Major League Soccer this season. Seattle minus 110, draws a plus 261. Atlanta United's a plus 292. Nico thought that this one was a draw, either 1-1 or 2-2. He thought it could be a very, very exciting match, and he was also going to play the over at plus 3.5.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's the first time we've seen Atlanta with Miles back in a while.
Yep.
Defense was noticeably better with him in the team. And yeah, you managed to you found a workaround around that by going to call it a 3-4-3.
Yeah.
However you want to call it, but Miles being back in gives you more stability. It gives you a guy who is one of the better players on this continent at his job. So it's good to have him back in the flow. It's going to be tough because you're going across the country and you're getting your body acclimated to it because it's a tough place to play. Atlanta hasn't won there. They've played 3 times. Drew in 17 in a really weird game. They lost in 19.
Yep.
Because that was the game where they were down 2-0. Joseph scored a header, And it kind of sparked the turnaround for that season, I think. And then last year or 2 years ago, you had the draw in 21 where it's kind of the Franco Ibarra game, like young Franco Ibarra, like played an amazing game. You got a penalty at the very end to rescue a point.
Yep.
But it's been a tough place to play, and it will be a tough place to play. It'll be an emotional day because of, like we talked about, you have Pineda and you have Garth Lagerwey getting honored before the game.
Mm-hmm.
There will be emotions. But at the end of the day, you have to go out and find at least a point. You'd love to find 3. It looks like Saba will not be a part of this.
Right.
But you will start to see new faces get factored in, and stuff that you've worked on over the break can be applied to live action. We know Atlanta's played at least one kind of scrimmage, for lack of a better word, against St. Louis.
Right.
Don't really know what else they've been doing. Don't really know what Seattle's been doing. I want to say I saw that Seattle had tried to set something up but was unable to, which makes sense. It's a tough, weird time. You're in this lull with Leagues Cup, and you're not in it, where other teams from other leagues are playing. You're in the lull. You have to go find another MLS team, and you have to find one where it syncs up and it makes sense for you. And it's tough, especially for Seattle, because if it's not Vancouver or Portland, or if they got something else going on, then you got to go a long way to find somebody. But we'll see how both of them kind of knock the rust off of the gears a bit.
And I think that
draw feels very doable.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think probably it's going to take a while for both of these teams to get all the gears cycled through. So I would not anticipate the game being off to a hot start in the first 20 minutes. I think that you're going to have 2 boxers trying to sit there and figure out, what they can do and what they can't. I think that first 20 minutes, it's probably going to be a lot of stuff in the middle third. I don't anticipate a whole lot of stuff in each attacking third in the first 20 minutes, and then where do you adjust from there? And I think that, looking at having Miles at the back, I think obviously is going to be that big stabilizer that you're looking for. And being in that first match back that counts for something, having someone like Miles back there for the first time since June the 10th, it's you need that stability there. The other element to what you were discussing when it came to not having to play, not being playing in a match for 3 weeks because of your exit in Leagues Cup, is that you're hoping that folks like Yorgos Giacomakis are as healthy as they can be. Because remember the ups and downs that we were having with Yorgos almost on a match-by-match or a by-match basis, where, okay, how many minutes can we get? He's only on 45. He's only on 60. Then he's got to be removed. What are we getting from Yorgos Giacomakis now that he's had 3 weeks of recovery for this big match and this stretch run here going up against Seattle to start things off? And I think that going out there a day early is going to help. It'll get you acclimated. We were talking to Michael Parkhurst about acclimation and going out to the West Coast and things like that, trying to figure out what to do and trying to be at 100% at 10:39 on a Sunday night is the other interesting part of all of this when it comes to travel and getting adjusted. Abby, public service announcement. Supporters are meeting up at Hatback Bar and Grill, 1201 First Ave South in Seattle for those going this weekend. Pre-game meeting at about 2:30 at same location in Soto, getting ready for the game at Lumen Field. So Hatback Bar and Grill, pre-game meeting at 2:30 on Sunday. So for those of you on this side of the planet, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific time is when you're meeting at Hatback. So biggest thing is just everybody travel safely. Everybody travel safely. Get out there and have a good time, and be there to support Atlanta United. Be there to support Gonzalo, and be there to support Garth, and show your support for everybody out there, because this is the stretch run, And every game is going to be amplified in importance as we go further here. Very, very busy Sunday, very important Sunday for those that might have forgotten how things are in the East and just how crazy it is. Atlanta right now is in 7th at 35 points. But remember what we've been discussing about who's playing whom. Hell is Real impacts Columbus and Cincinnati. Columbus is a point ahead of you at 36 points. If you're an Atlanta United fan, you're rooting for Cincinnati to take care of business. That keeps Columbus close to you. Orlando's 2 points ahead of you in 5th place at 37 points. We mentioned Orlando going to Chicago. Nashville, they're kind of busy. They're busy on Saturday night. They're at 38 points. So if things go your way, Cincinnati takes care of business, Chicago helps you out, you could be in something akin to 4th or 5th place. You could be in 4th or 5th place by the end of it all on Sunday night. And just how nuts is it? Cincinnati's 8 points clear, 51-43. New England second and 43 points. And sidebar, we do not have any kind of resolution on the Bruce Arena situation yet. Philly's at 40. They're kind of busy. Nashville's at 38. Orlando 37. Columbus 36. Atlanta 35. Chicago 32. DC 30. So that group from basically either 4 to 7 or 3 to 7 separated by 5 points. 5 teams, 5 points right now. Atlanta would be 5th in the West with their record and only a point behind Seattle. Seattle at 36 points would be in 6th place. And they right now in the Western Conference, just to give you an idea. St. Louis is 4 points clear of everybody. LAFC and RSL are at 37. Seattle's at 36. Austin and San Jose are at 32. Vancouver 31. Dallas 30. Houston 29. Minnesota 28. 6 points, 4 points, 6 spots. 5 through 10 in the Western Conference right now. That's how crazy this run-in is going to be for Major League Soccer across the board. So if Atlanta does what if they get a positive result, they get full points. Probably 5th place because they would be behind Nashville in goal difference and wins and things like that. So, this one, Jared, is going to be wall-to-wall crazy. Yeah, they'd be in 5th because Nashville has 11 wins. Atlanta would have 10. But, yeah, just the groupings right now, it's very, very cramped with everything going on in Major League Soccer right now. Very, very cramped space. This is one of the smaller elevators that you're going to be dealing with when it comes to this 10 matches to go here in the regular season.
You just have to take care of business. You take care of your business, and then you let everyone else worry about everyone else. Because if you take care of your business, then you're not staring at schedules the entire time. Yeah. And so there's, like I said, it's going to be really, really interesting as we go forward. Once again, reminder, quick note on the twos. Their match is Monday night. They are wrapping up the weekend MLS Next Pro. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock from Montclair. You'll have that here on the SDH Network with some guy named me doing play-by-play for that one. So the Twos and Red Bulls at Montclair Monday night after double match week last week and the match in New England. 1-1. You lose Efra Morales to an injury. We'll find out more about that coming up in just a little bit. And then it was a 4-goal second half. New England had some first-teamers in there, including Tommy McNamara, who's coming back from an injury. And it ends up with a 5-1 result for the Revs, who are the second-place team in the Eastern Conference after Atlanta. Got a win over Crown Legacy, the top team in the Eastern Conference. So MLS Next Pro is going to have its own set of craziness. 6 points back of the last playoff spot with 6 matches to go for Atlanta United 2. And so we're going to be catching up. That's why we're off the air at 11 this morning, because we got to catch up with Steve Cook and get ready for that game
coming up here on the network in short order. Jarrett, when you let's see, I'm trying to think what have we not had the chance to talk about this week, because we got the chance to talk about Herdman and laugh about that. What else has been on your mind this week, because you've been kind of busy with real world stuff now that we're wrapping up yet another week?
Honestly, just getting ready for the weekend. I said my piece about the Leagues Cup games. How Philadelphia came out and didn't play their game, almost whether or not it was scared or overthinking or a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah.
They didn't play their game. They got buried within 10 minutes. And then they tried to crawl back into it and then didn't execute their attempt to crawl. Once again, Miami still has defensive issues, but they've been let off the hook a lot. That might continue. You never know until when that luck is going to change, because it might not change for a while. It doesn't really feel like it matters, though, because it feels like Miami's good for 2 or 3 goals a game anyway.
Yep.
So it was the same thing we had talked about before with Miami. You have to be clinical and take your chances against them, because you know they're going to find something. Because even if you try and minimize a certain one, El Messi,
yes,
other guys are stepping up. He is making the people around him better, which is one of the things that makes you one of the GOATs. Is not that you were great, not that you can grab the game by the scruff. It's great that you can do that, but when you're elevating everyone around you, that's a sign of greatness.
Yeah.
Man, Nashville's going to have to go to Mexico at some point for a Champions League game, and it's going to be such a hostile environment. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
We'll see what they look like. Coming into this game, and yeah, because the thing is with Nashville, like Nashville's shown you little flashes of pressure before. Like, go back to when they beat Atlanta this year in Nashville. They pressured Atlanta for the first 20 minutes of that game and made Atlanta uncomfortable. And I wonder if they try that with Miami, especially at home, to try and snatch that first lead, so that they can Nashville can kind of do Nashville things where they can get the lead and then they can kind of sit back and coil up like a snake and then just wait for the chance to strike on the counter.
I have not seen anything else on Jacob Schaffelberg. As he was pulled in the first half, and Fafa Pico ended up taking that space for Jacob Schaffelberg, and we do not have any kind of an injury update on him. And obviously, it would mean probably something along the lines of Fafa Pico getting the start as opposed to Schaffelberg starting, Fafa Pico coming in probably to give you 30. It would be very, very interesting to get those news and notes out of Nashville and seeing how it ends up. Schaffelberg, by the way, last time he did anything on the X was back on July 25th, and there's been no word on any kind of injury update for Jacob Schaffelberg when it comes to Leagues Cup. Monterrey, who will have been traveling for 3 weeks straight, goes to Philly. And, is Jim Curtin going to do Jim Curtin, or is he going to be is he going to try to be too cute? Yeah,
no, he should. I mean, you don't think about this.
No,
seriously, don't. Just do you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't overthink it.
No, and he
You're
did.
only going. Thinking hurts the team.
Yes, absolutely true. And so we'll see how much thinking happens with the 2 Leagues Cup matches. If Monterrey wins, it means León goes in, because Monterrey's already in. And so we'll see what happens. Winner gets into the CONCACAF Champions Hemispheric Extravaganza Sweet 16. They just go right to the round of 16. They don't have to worry about any kind of opening round stuff. Busy stuff today in stuff you can watch. Being an Español's got Ligue 1 at 3 o'clock. Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United's at 2:45 on USA. Prem and Proper will be up in early afternoon to preview the weekend for you. If you do not have BN or BN Español, you can sign up at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here, and you can help out the show, help out the network, get addicted to them like I am. I blame Jason. Deportes has a La Liga doubleheader today. Universo is your simulcaster for the Premier League. Next Pro has 2 matches for Friday Night Football. Toronto FC 2 and the Revs at 7. That is of interest to Atlanta United 2 fans and teams at 7 o'clock. St. Louis City 2 all caps is playing T2 at 8 o'clock. The Plus has a lot of action from a bunch of different leagues. Belgian Pro, Championship, Leeds United, West Brom. Bundesliga is at 2:20. La Liga doubleheader. USL Championship involving Tampa Bay. League One, Knoxville and Lex SC, and then a triple header in college women's action, 12:05, 6, and 7:30. Paramount Plus, Kansas City and OL Reign is at 8 o'clock tonight. I forgot to ask you about Vlatko. We haven't had the chance to catch up about Vlatko being Vlat gone.
Yeah, and I know we're up against it, so we'll make this quick. I hope Vlatko goes somewhere and finds success as a club manager. Sounds like Kansas City might be a place that he lands. We'll see.
Yeah.
Look, he was a guy that people wanted. He's a guy that the players wanted. It didn't work out. It doesn't always work out. I don't think it's as doom and gloom as other people do with the women's program in general.
Yeah.
But it's something we've talked about for a while, which is you gotta fix the youth side, because the girls and women's national teams, like the U19 and younger, have been getting knocked around in tournaments, like when they shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Those failings eventually catch up with you.
Yeah.
So stop it.
Stop it. And also, I'm sure that Nick will. And if you're hearing some screaming that doesn't need to be picked up by any of our microphones, or if you feel the screaming coming through the X, looks like Spalletti has reached an agreement with the Italian Football Federation to succeed Roberto Mancini as coach of the national team, according to La Gazzetta dello Sport. Spalletti, their top choice, will sign a 3-year deal through September of 2026. The former Napoli boss has had several telephone conversations with Federation President Gabriella Gravina and has now agreed to take over from Mancini, due to meet on Friday to finalize the contract. So, that screaming that you're going to hear is from Nick on that one. So next time Nick is on the show, we will get him to talk about Spalletti and him probably maybe being in charge of the Italian national team. So we'll keep an eye on that. Once again, your traffic for the weekend, it is Leagues Cup on Saturday, doubleheader on Apple, and then all of the MLS matches Sunday night. Atlanta United, Mike and Jason will be at Lumen Field, 10 o'clock Eastern pregame on 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app, 10:39 kick. And we will keep an eye on that post-game show after the twos once again on Monday night. Hopefully Monday will be another all-star studded show where we look back at World Cup and a bunch of other things. Abby doing the public service before we go, looking at our friends at World Soccer Talk. Christopher Harris says that the clock is ticking for Inter Miami to get their new stadium ready for Messi before the World Cup starts. Ends his contract, ends in 25. It looks like the stadium is nowhere close to being done. So delays, quoting our buddy Martin the Martian. So not a surprise, but it looks like Jorge _Moss is either going to have to do things on the hop over at Melry's or get things done in time. You got to remediate the land from the Melry's golf course and get all that squared away. But it looks like nothing has started when it comes to moving everything over to Freedom Park by 2026. So not a shock that things are going to happen, but you got to move stuff indoors. You've got to move stuff either to Hard Rock or to Marlins Park and get things done that way, just because you need a bigger boat. You need a bigger boat, people. So that's your look. Once again, thanks to everybody who was a part of everything this week. Safe travels to everybody who's heading to Seattle. Thanks to all you guys in the Twitch pitch, as you always are. It's always great, wide-ranging conversations with all the guests that we have, and we will be back at it again Monday morning, 9:05, talking World Cup, talking Atlanta United, talking Leagues Cup, all that stuff. We might have another star-studded show. Probably some combination of Jess, Jarrett, Lucas Panzica, Bart Keeler, you, and me. So for everybody here at SDH, Jarrett, since you are here, go ahead and send us home.
Which let's go.
What he said. It's the end of the week. Be safe, everybody. We got stuff coming out on the weekend. Be back at it again 9:05 on Monday morning.